I'm Arthur Black. Welcome to Weird Homes, a show that looks at the most unusual and bizarre homes in North America. You know, one of the problems we all face is what to do with all our junk. Most of it gets sent to landfill sites, but some inspired types are taking that junk back and turning it into art. On today's show, you'll see a log cabin that's made out of tin cans, used car parts transformed into chandeliers, or how about a hot tub surrounded by a miniature town? These folks take our leftovers and let their imaginations run wild. Let's take a look. For some folks, junk is just art waiting to be discovered. Take Charles Ringer. Charlie takes a few chunks of scrap metal and turns them into wonders like this. Then there's Jerry Hall. Jerry hasn't lost his marbles. They're right on the ceiling where he glued them. Matter of fact, Jerry never loses much of anything. He just recycles it into another form of home decoration. For these folks, trash heaps are treasure troves. This is what used to be called the Old Wrecking Yard on the outskirts of Joliet, Montana. And these three unemployed gas pumps warming their hands over the fire? They'd be the work of the fella who lives in the Old Wrecking Yard, Charlie Ringer. Charlie and his wife Emily took over an old auto salvage lot and turned it into both an artist's workspace and an unusual home. But don't look for pink flamingos on the lawn.
Oh, this is a project I did in 1984. It's just I collected scrap aluminum for years and just had this fantasy idea about a flying saucer thing, and so I built one. It's got the little spaceman doing experiments and all the controls inside to fly, and didn't have a device to bend it, so I ran my car over this big aluminum plate and put a little bend in it. Then I moved a board, and then I drove over it again, and I made the whole thing by driving my car over it.
I think it's great. The kids love it. The best playground equipment you could own.
Yeah, this is an old Montana Power substation from 1906 or something like that. And I just kind of kept it because it looked good. And I started putting iron and stuff on it. And I put a whole bunch of stuff on one side of the shed. Now it's kind of the leaning shed.
And just to give it a little balance, Charlie added the nose and tail of a gas tank from a B-52 bomber. This man's love affair with scrap metal goes way, way back.
I started doing it when I was probably 5 years old in Minnesota. I had a little red wagon. I would pull that thing. I'd pull it 2 miles to the dump, empty, and then fill it up with all this stuff and drag it home 2 miles back. And I did that, you know, a couple times a week for years, and I'm still doing it. Basically, it's looking at all this stuff as a material rather than specifically what it is. And as a material, they're neat objects, neat shapes, and they don't make it anymore.
When Charlie and Emily first moved into the Old Wrecking Yard, they found the neighbors a little cool. "We were vegetarians in a cattle town," says Charlie. But when the locals realized that this new fella was a wizard at repairing cars and tractors, they decided the Ringers were all right after all.
Some of the kinetic work here. I pretty much specialize in kinetic sculpture. And it's all pendulum action. They go anywhere between an hour and 5 hours on a push like that.
Charlie is fascinated by the way things move. But no electronic blitz or bleeps, please. He prefers the real thing.
Anything kinetic kind of interests me, and you actually have a ball that moves around, or anything that's really happening rather than digital.
Charlie and Emily met at college in Boulder, Colorado, and immediately launched into an artistic lifestyle. Money was tight in the early days. Fortunately, Charlie was already a master at making silk purses out of sow's ears.
The chandeliers and light fixtures are all made out of car parts, air cleaners, drive shafts. Of course, you got the roll-down car window here that goes up and down, which is kind of neat. This kind of represented the starving artist days where we didn't have a lot of money, so we just made do with the materials that we had. And these are all car windows. This one's a 59 Ford station wagon, 57 Plymouth station wagon, and 59 Chrysler side window.
I was delighted when we moved in here because for 3 years we'd lived in a truck and trailer, which was great fun, but every night we had to unload all the contraptions Chuck had picked up during the day because he's a junk collector, as you can tell. And it was kind of cramped living in a truck, so we were just going to move here for the running water and flushing toilet and make a home base and then keep moving out from here and traveling around. But we ended up 30 years later, we're still here, still collecting, and it's been a real adventure.
And there's more adventure coming up. Charlie's got some other recycled wonders that'll make your head spin. The house and gallery of artist Charlie Ringer, along with some of his amazing works of art, all made from junk. And where did he get this gift? He owes it all to dear old Mom.
And my mother taught me how to weld when I was 14. And, I started building hot rods and cars and things. And I get to be about 16 and built a sculpture. Somebody bought it. Here I am today.
Charlie and Emily followed in Mom's footsteps by homeschooling their 3 children. Even though she's at university now, youngest daughter Tamina likes to come home, sometimes with friends in tow. So what do your pals think of your folks' place, Tamina?
Actually, when a lot of my friends come, they think it's a very unusual place and it takes them like hours to go through. But I had an amazing childhood. Wouldn't give any of it up. I really enjoyed living here.
If you'd seen this place when the Ringers bought it, you wouldn't believe your eyes. Luckily, they've got photographs.
Well, this is our before picture here. That was about 1971. It was a wrecking yard at one time, and nobody wanted it. And the price is right, $6,700. And as an artist, that looked like a gold mine to me. From there, we kind of evolved from buying neighbors out in all directions.
And they just keep expanding. What used to be a graveyard for jalopies now boasts a gallery and gardens. And of course, plenty of Charlie's bread and butter. More junk.
This part of the property we picked up a few years ago, and we have about 6 acres now that Chuck stores all his stuff on. And he's got plenty of stuff.
And when they want a real change of pace, all the Ringers have to do is walk out back and go camping.
This is our summer home. We spend the summers in the teepee because it's much cooler than up in the house. We've had this one about 8 years, I guess. It's getting a little threadbare. We need to replace it someday, get some new poles, but it's a great living space.
There isn't much that Charlie can't turn into something else. He snapped up this bathed-out piano to salvage the metal innards. Figures it'll make a first-rate wind sculpture. And then there's the bridge. Charlie, how come you got a bridge to nowhere in your backyard?
This is the Joliet's old bridge. It's an old horse bridge, 1901. And they were going to cut it into pieces. And I went out and scolded them, told them to find a home for it. And next thing I knew, it was in my yard. And now it's probably going to Billings, Montana, in the historical district to go over the railroad tracks as a pedestrian walkway. The deal is they're going to trade me a brand new Harley Davidson for that bridge. It's a good deal.
A very good deal. And that Harley will sit handsomely next to Charlie's growing collection of not quite recycled vehicles, which includes his gorgeous, customized 1939 four-door Buick sedan. Now this is recycling in style.
My basic philosophy is not to take life too seriously. My suggestion is look around. It's an amazing trip to really look at what's going on rather than what society thinks you ought to do. To be creative, you have to be an individual, period.
An individual. Well, with a horse bridge, a teepee, and a flying saucer in his backyard, there's not much doubt that Charlie Ringer's one of a kind. Welcome to the Wizard's Den, aka Jerry Hall's place in Tucson, Arizona. Jerry runs a landscaping business, but you might not guess that from his front yard. Jerry's been fine-tuning his own grounds for quite a spell.
This place has been here about 30 years, or 40 years I've been working at it. Would like to turn it into kind of like a museum so people can enjoy and look at the fun things of it, to see what people can do with their imaginations.
Jerry's imagination got tweaked when his mom and dad took him to an art gallery, back when he was just a sprout. Something must have clicked, because ever since, Jerry's been churning out artworks made from anything he can lay his hands on.
We're in the front yard, and you're looking at a bed with a lady reading a book. And this guy over here is getting ready to serve the old lady in the bed her coffee. So he's there falling asleep while she's sitting there reading the book. And there's a little baby down below here is falling asleep on the mother's legs. And then this is her mother, just still staying up at nighttime, ironing and washing. And she's so tired she got a hair in her eye that she I had to move it up to help her out a little bit.
Jerry's problem? He gets bored easily. He always has to have something new to work on. And even when he's hard at it, he's thinking ahead to his next project. He says he doesn't know what spare time means. His motto? I just eat, sleep, and breathe my artwork. And lately, his imagination has taken off, literally. He's built himself an off-the-ground addition to his off-the-wall home.
We're into the tree house where I designed it so we could come up and play. This is the king and queen, and I made these over 2,000 or 3,000 marbles. I come up here and want to make it special to me, so I'm designing this room so it'd be closer to heaven. I do all the drawing up first, and then I kind of like painting with the marbles. I don't think too many people have painted with marbles, so I like it because every time you put it on, you did get a different color on it, the purple, the gold, the blue. I put in an owl down here in his clothes, and also I put a cat.
City Hall and Jerry have never been real close buddies, but the treehouse really ticked the bureaucrats off. You see, he just went ahead and built the thing without benefit of building permit. The inspectors read him the Riot Act. Jerry argued that the treehouse isn't a house, it's a work of art. Final tally, Jerry Hall won, City Hall no score.
Here is close to about 500 of them just there. And you probably say, well, how do you know it's 500 of them? Because I have in a bag like this, I buy, there are about 500 of them, so it tells me there's 500 of them. So if I use one bag, whoops, there they go, one bag of them, that's 500 of them.
Clearly, Jerry is a patient man, but he doesn't spend all his time gluing marbles to walls. He also works in tin, as in cans. Check out the tin can cabin in his backyard. 2,500 cans. Just one question, Jerry. Why tin cans?
I thought it would just be a challenge. I thought it would be how neat it would be just to show people how you can do recyclable metal. And instead of just throwing the cans away, you could actually do something with a tin can. Otherwise, you just throw them in the garbage and that's it. But this way you can build a house or have something fun. You coming, Chewy? Come on. Come on. Oh, Chewy.
Having fun is right near the top of Jerry's agenda. How about a water fountain and a goldfish pond? That sounds like fun. And to keep the fish amused, he added a menagerie of metallic monuments, all salvaged from used car parts. This is Jerry's knight in shining car bumpers. Comes complete with a belly full of sound system. You ever gonna be finished here, Jerry?
I keep saying to myself, well, one of these days, maybe I'll finish it and just sit back and just enjoy it. Every time I say that, all of a sudden something pops up and then I come up with another idea, then I'm busy at it again.
Too busy to share the wealth? Nope. Coming up next, the princess in Jerry's life. Jerry Hall's Garden of Delights in Tucson, Arizona can be a bit overpowering at first glance. When Sherry Haney met Jerry through a dating service, he showed her the place, and she was hooked from the get-go. It was no contest, because she thinks her man has magical powers.
Well, he's the wizard, since he's worked such magic with my heart.
And she's my princess. Just she did the same thing.
The wizard and the princess live in a castle as fantastic as anything in Camelot. But there's a downside to that, too.
I can relate to how celebrities would feel because Jerry is somewhat known in town, and we have visitors from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. Some people don't realize, they just think that they can barge in and say, oh, yeah, can you show me your work?
Well, you can hardly blame folks for being curious. There's a kingdom's worth of craftsmanship to enjoy everywhere you look, in every medium you can imagine, and all of it recycled.
Outside.
Well, okay, maybe not the dartboard.
Close.
This doesn't count for official...
Now, remember, I don't have bifocals. You got
trifocals.
magnifying glasses.
He's the Tucson wizard. He can take junk and work his alchemy and make it into a beautiful piece of art.
And it almost never happened. After he finished high school, Jerry wanted to become a forest ranger, but he got a job welding instead. And the forest's loss was Tucson's gain.
This is what you call my magic room. I did the buffalo home, but with quarters. And then I thought, well, why steal from the forest, follow timber and all that? So I decided to make my own beans out of tin cans. And then you come over here, and I call this the Magic Mountain. And then we have a magic button over here, and this turns on the 7 waterfalls. So you can be seeing it come out of all different directions.
Jerry used to get bored back when he worked as a welder, so on his lunch hours, he soldered little people together out of rebar and ball bearings. He ended up with a whole lot of little people. And, Jerry being Jerry, he had to figure out some place for them to live.
Here I'm going down to the magic Grand Canyon. Let's put it this way. I built this town called Hallstown. I've always liked a mining town, a western town, because I came from a western town. My grandfather was a miner, so I was a miner in a way, worked the copper mines as a welder. It kind of reminds me when you were a kid, when you watch TV, the old Westerner movies, you know, silent movies.
Not surprisingly, the tourists come from miles around to check out the Wizard's Lair, and not just out-of-towners. Although he moved away years ago, Tom Copeland always makes a point of dropping by whenever he's in town.
I've watched it my whole life. It's been kind of a work in progress. So it started off, I believe, as just muffler art. And then it was expanded to include anything and everything. Some people would probably call it debris, and other people call it art. I call it Tucson.
As night settles in on Tucson, the Wizard's home undergoes a magical transformation. Jerry's wired the whole place with more than 2,000 colored light bulbs. When he hits the switch, the effect is, well, wizardly.
Life is very boring if you want to make it boring. If you want to make it interesting, it's interesting. If it's very sad, you can make it sad. I look at living like one day at a time. Be happy with what you got.
The wizard and his princess, they've got a lot, and it looks like they know just how to make the most of it. Same goes for Emily and Charlie Ringer, totally at home on the Montana Range. Can you imagine turning these into a log cabin? Now that's what I call a can-do attitude. I'm Arthur Black. Hope you enjoyed Weird Homes. We'll see you next time.